as you might already know, recently I actually had the chance to spend 2 weeks traveling all around Saudi Arabia, which was actually very different experience to what I thought it would be, you know? And because of that experience, I learned so much about Saudi Arabia and its culture and obviously the local people. And today I want to tell you the top 10 things you should never ever be doing in Saudi Arabia if you ever get the chance to go. Let's go. Thing not to do in Saudi Arabia. Number 1 is do not be afraid of the police. I know that most foreigners think that the rules in Saudi Arabia are incredibly strict, and of course they are. And because of that, a lot of people tend to be quite afraid of the police, I think. And I guess I also had those really mixed feelings going there. But all the interactions I've had with the police traveling throughout the country were so good, dude. For example, one time I was driving my car on the highway, and then this policeman approaches me, and we start talking, and I'm a bit afraid because maybe they can actually find me for not having the Saudi license. I don't know. But he asked me to like step out of the car, and we start talking and stuff, and he starts asking me all these questions about where I'm from and why I'm here. And he's so excited that I'm in Saudi Arabia. He's like, dude, if you ever need any help whatsoever, please call me. This is my WhatsApp, this is my Instagram. Send me a message in the middle of the night, doesn't matter when. I'll be there for you, man. Hope you have a great time. Yeah, get back on the road. We love foreigners visiting Saudi Arabia. Yeah, after all these experiences, I really do think that the police there are super awesome. Thing not to do, number 2, is don't try to sneak into Mecca. So I don't know how much you know about Islam, but Mecca for those people is the holiest place in the whole world ever. There's no comparison. Nothing is even close to it, you know? And obviously there's millions of pilgrims visiting Mecca every single year for religious reasons. And I know that there's many people who are not Muslims, but they managed to, you know, sneak into Mecca as well as like a pilgrim or whatever. So they would lie that they're Muslim and say like, Assalamu alaikum or whatever, and then sometimes people would let them through, and there's even videos on YouTube about it and stuff. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't think that's a good thing to do. Because yes, you could probably sneak in, but at the same time, it's such a holy place to those people. Why would you go there as a tourist if you don't actually believe in it? You know what I mean? So even if you do get the chance, even if you find some local people who say, you know, go with us or whatever, I don't think you should really do it. Thing not to do, number 3, is don't start talking to women in full abayas unless they start. So once again, a lot of tourists, when they go to Saudi Arabia, they think that there's no way they will ever get to interact with any woman. And actually, that's not really true. I mean, traveling around Saudi Arabia, I met quite a few girls with whom we made friends and hung out and, you know, had fun and talked about everything. And it was, I mean, it was great, you know, like not all of them were actually even wearing abayas or even hijabs and stuff, and a lot of them have traveled to other parts of the world. Now, there's one thing, if you see a woman in a full, you know, black abaya, completely covered and everything, you probably shouldn't start talking to them yourself, but actually a lot of them will start talking to you. For example, there will be situations where I'm sitting on a bench, chilling, you know, next to some sort of a museum, and someone comes up to me and they're like, hello, where are you from? Hope you have a nice day, you know, something like this. And then I go, whoa, hi, that's so nice, you know? Thing not to do, number 4, is don't plan too many places for your road trip. So the thing about Saudi Arabia is that it's such a huge country, dude. Like going from one city to another, it's thousands of kilometers, you know what I mean? And when I was in this big city of Jeddah, I actually rented a car, and I only had, I think, 4 days to drive the car. And I was driving literally all day, every day. In those 4 days, I think I did around 2,000 kilometers or so, which was a lot of driving. But I still only managed to cover like this much of Saudi Arabia and only visit a handful of places, simply because the distances from one place to another, or from one city to another, are massive, you know? So yes, if you're going there and you want to get a car and do a road trip, make sure you have a lot of time, or if you don't have a lot of time, only explore a certain region of Saudi Arabia rather than trying to do the whole thing, because it's huge. Thing not to do, number 5, is do not wear shorts. So when I was there wasn't a single occasion where I was actually wearing shorts, and so some of the locals I met, they were like, yeah dude, no worries, you can definitely wear shorts and whatever. But actually I never saw a single person doing it. So yes, I think legally at this point you could be wearing shorts, it's probably not forbidden, but at the same time, you know, if 99.9999% of the people are not doing it, it might be a little disrespectful to some locals who are once again maybe a bit more conservative and don't want to see your legs everywhere. Okay, legend, let's take a very short break here because I want to tell you something very, very spicy. Recently, I launched my new channel called Stay Curious, where we're making very short, fast-paced educational videos about beautiful places around the world, and we also have a few videos about Saudi Arabia as well, as you can see around me here. So once you're done watching this video, smash the link in the description box down below, support the channel, binge on as many videos as you like, and learn quite a bit about this beautiful, beautiful country. Thanks so much. Let's get back to the video. Very important thing not to do, number 6, is never, ever, ever, ever say no to people's hospitality. The people I met in Saudi Arabia were some of the most hospitable and some of the friendliest people I've met in my entire life ever. During my tour in this really beautiful desert region called Al Ula, I was actually in a tour group with 9 other Saudi people. I was the only foreigner, and it was great because I felt like, I don't know, we were almost family members, and everyone treated me as if I was one of their own and stuff. Man, it was so good. And so during the tour, we kept joking that now I have a Saudi father who was called Mahmoud, one of the coolest guys ever. And either way, after the tour, I had a few days off in the city of Jeddah, and he actually invited me to stay with his whole family in his house, and he showed me around, and he was buying everything for me, and we'd be having lunches together, dinners together, driving around the city and stuff. Dude, it was so beautiful. Obviously, I didn't film anything, but Mahmoud, thank you. You're the best guy in Saudi Arabia, hands down. Love you to the moon and back. Can't wait to see you again. Thing not to do, number 7, is don't be too adventurous with religious places. So as you know, Saudi Arabia is a very religious country because it's, you know, the birthplace of Islam, and to them it's such a big thing. And of course, you always need to be incredibly respectful when it comes to religion, when it comes to mosques or you know, very important historical sites. But there are some places you might not be aware of. For example, I met some travelers in Saudi Arabia who were in the city called Medina, which is once again incredibly important because that's where the Prophet lived for a long time. They wanted to climb up this hill for sunset, right? And so a group of them, maybe 5 or 6 people, they climbed up and they were watching the sunset. It was so beautiful. And then the police came and they said, "What are you doing? It's forbidden for you to be here," because it's apparently a very important religious place for them. And so obviously no foreigners were allowed there. And they said, "Oh my God, we're so sorry," and stuff, you know. And they almost got into trouble, but you know, I guess because they didn't know, they let them go, which was great. But yeah, so please be very respectful, very careful. Don't do anything that you know, you think could offend the people of Saudi Arabia. It's very, very important. Very important thing not to do in Saudi Arabia. Number 8 is do not expect the places you go to be open. Okay, so as you know, Muslims pray 5 times per day, and even though I've been to many Muslim countries around the world, but none of them were as serious about it as Saudi Arabia. So in Saudi Arabia, almost everything closes a few times per day when people go to pray, and they close for like 30 minutes or whatever. And so there would be so many situations where I would, for example, go to a gas station, there's absolutely no one there. So I'm just chilling there in my car waiting for like 45 minutes. And then bam, someone comes along, gives me the gas, and then I'm on my way, you know? I think it's a beautiful thing that people can actually take time off during their days when obviously everyone's busy with work and stuff. But for a tourist who doesn't really know those times and isn't really accustomed to it, it could be a little hard. So yeah, make sure you know when those times are. Plan your day that way and everything's gonna be great. Thing not to do, number 9, is don't be upset if some touristy places are either closed or not really very accessible. The thing about Saudi tourism is that for a very long time it was incredibly hard to go to Saudi Arabia as a tourist, and only very recently they launched the e-visas, which obviously I used to get to the country as well. And because of that, they have, you know, thousands of people visiting the country every year now. But it's still incredibly early for Saudi Arabia's tourism because, I mean, it just started, you know? So some museums are not, you know, open to the public yet. Some places are kind of hard to find. The road signs are not always the best because they're made for the locals but not the tourists. The infrastructure is not always the best, you know what I mean? So it's still very, very early, and that's exactly why I think visiting Saudi Arabia, you know, was a great thing for someone like me, because I don't like going to countries that are very touristy, and here, everywhere I went, I was almost always alone. And finally, number 10 is don't be surprised if you find yourself interacting with a Saudi DJ. What? Apparently, Saudi Arabia has been changing dramatically the last couple of years because there were some changes in, you know, the government and stuff, and now it's really opening up to the world. Once again, women can drive cars now, and laws are changing, and the ways of life are changing, and I mean, so many things are changing. And one of those things is actually that sometimes they already have public concerts, which wasn't really available in the past. I mean, like, sort of party-like concerts, you know? And so when I was traveling around Saudi Arabia, I got to meet this dude called Jimmy, who spent a very long time living in California and learning how to DJ and everything. But now he came back home and is actually a DJ in Saudi Arabia. And he was so surprised with this. He said, dude, I never expected in my entire lifetime that suddenly this could actually happen. But now he came back home. He said it's the best decision he ever made in his life. He's super happy to be back in Saudi Arabia. And now he's actually DJing in like concerts and venues and events and everything. And it's like, dude, this is insane. You know, he was so excited. So yeah, times are definitely changing. I don't really know what the situation is going to be like when you know, make your way to Saudi Arabia. But I think the country is definitely going to be changing a lot in the next few years. So quite interesting to see what happens. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Sheep.